Hello and welcome back to Finite Space. We will be continuing where we left off, which, if you recall, is after... Oh no, I already forgot his name. The human, didn't really show that he was that good in the previous practice, where he was pit up against Brute, I believe. And, he got his ass handed to him, and then he kind of took it out on Kelbix a little. But later on, he sneaked off and did some practice with the bear. I forgot his name. I think it's like Eryx? Something, I forget. It's been a while. I read too much stuff. And yeah, that's basically it. Today, I believe we will be seeing some more practice sessions, but this time it's going to be with the new instructor, so yay. There's also a character that's been retroactively added. Well, not a character, a sprite. I believe that is the knight for Xaria, whatever her name is, the big girl. So we will get to see that instructor, and that should pretty much tell you, like, yeah, he's the new instructor that we're gonna be paired with again. Well, I mean, for this time. Anyways, whatever, enough rambling. Let us continue in Finite Space. The first betrayal that I experience as I wake up are the rays of light stabbing across my face. The second is from the STIK, vibrating and chirping birdsongs shrilly. It is also firing bead-sized, solid hollow windows at my cheek, telling me that this is the third attempt at rousing me. Groaning, I grab the insidious device and then slide the complex shut-off mechanism to prove my alertness. You two? I thought you were supposed to be on my side. I chastise the traitorous object and then swing myself out of bed. I'm hit with a wave of cramps that spiders pain of my body. Breathing deep, I relax my seizing muscles as I groan from the aches. I may be no stranger to hard workout pains, but last night, on top of the other activities yesterday, has my body protesting. Doing some basic stretches, it slowly eases some of the pain. Maybe I should have checked what squires were going to do today before going so hard with Eryx. As I slide open the door, my ears catch the sound of water running. Calvix must be awake and showering. Fuck. That wakes me up fully. I might still be conflicted about my night, but that does not excuse me from my duties. I hurry downstairs to prepare breakfast. Looking into the kitchen, I realize that I didn't ask if you liked what I made yesterday. Double fuck. No time. I clatter around grabbing the grains and then start cooking. I hear the footfalls coming down the stairs. As I'm mid-stir, knowing that he's behind me, I blush brightly. After my tantrum yesterday, and now a late breakfast, what do I even say? So I say nothing. I keep stirring the pan, my eyes glued to my work. He doesn't say anything either. The silence is only cut by the squelching sound of the porridge being swirled around the pan. He approaches. Maybe he'll reprimand me for my insubordination, or tell me that he prefers meat for breakfast. Honey. What, sir? Calbix reaches around me to open a sliding panel. He pulls a jar out and then places it on the counter. The fruit was fine, but I usually have honey in my morning meal. I see. Sir, I'll remember, anything else I should do? Either he is brushing past last night or he's being considerate. I daren't meet his gaze yet as I scoop the meal into a bowl and pick up the jar. It has a sticker across the front that showcases a handsome bear that I recognize sticking his tongue out cheekily. Night Tobes. Calbix must have seen me notice it. I finally look at him. He is still hard to read, but his eye is soft. He keeps drones that make it, and he brings me a jar ever so often. Looking rather embarrassed, he moves to grab the cylinder flask that I saw yesterday. A display light on the side turns on as he chooses a present option. The flask releases a hiss of vapor that smells dark and bitter as he pulls a part of the top off. The portion that has separated reconfigures a handle that coils around his fingers, and the top spirals open, Steam rises as Kalbeck takes a long gulp from it. He has 4 more segments that fit to form an almost seamless single canister. He sighs as he finishes it, and then turns back to me. I'm supposed to drink this 5 times a day. It's part of my continued recovery. The flask can be turned to different flavors, but I have my preferences set already. He shows me the flask. Each segment lights up with a small display on the side containing a list of the contents, flavor profile, and the time of day to consume. It's not much for a task. It doesn't take much effort. Once the container is empty, it will need cleaning and refilling daily. He steps over to the island counter and shows me on the side where a set of tubes protrudes. He pulls out one and there is a chill as refrigerated air flows. The tube contains a viscous liquid that sloshes slightly as he brings it to eye level. It must be some pretty advanced stuff. Fully clean the inside and refill with one of these. When there are less than 5 canisters in the drawer, we have to ask acquisitions for more. I'll show you that later. He looks at me to make sure that I am paying attention. I meet his gaze fully. It has been a while, but doing this for me, I hope you see it as a start. I nod. He's not good at accepting help, clearly, but maybe this is a way of giving me a peace offering. Yes, sir. I'll make sure to do this without fail. I snap to attention automatically, then yelp from my muscles protesting. Kalbeck again looks as if he's going to say something, but instead takes his seat at the table. He continues to sip his first tonic of the day. I bring the bowl and jar of honey over. After placing them before him, I stand back and wait expectantly. Part of me wants to see him eat some so that I can see him appreciate it, but I convince myself that it's to make sure that I know that he likes his breakfast. He takes a spoonful of honey and drizzles a good amount of it on top, stirring a little. Then he takes a mouthful and appears to like it, before clearing his throat and looking embarrassed. I feel awkward at eating with you standing there. Won't you sit or something? Realizing that I have been leaning forward a bit too eagerly, I shake myself from staring. Oh, right. I need to get to the mess hall or I'll miss the morning meal. Remembering that it's later than I intended to get up, I double-check the time. I might not be late if I jog to the hall and then eat like a drake. The thought of cardio in my current state makes me want to cry. Have some. Huh? I am brought out of my thoughts as Kalbeck looks at his bowl, and then pushes it to the middle of his table. He gestures. Have some, instead of rushing. He wants me to eat with him? Not just with him, but from his bowl too? Isn't that a little too intimate? He looks serious though. My stomach rumbles. It's agreement as well, so I slide into the seat opposite of him. The table spits out a spoon from a drawer on the side. I pick it up apprehensively. Kalbeck is not even looking. His attention is instead glued to his own STIK on the table. He scans through the screens projected from it. His cybernetic eye seems to be controlling it remotely. I decide to take the plunge, scooping from the side of the bowl, not touched by Kalbeck's. Without second thought, I take a hearty bite. There is a soft thud from beneath the table, though I see no further action. I could have sworn that it was Kalbeck's tail wagging once. Maybe it was my imagination. The porridge is good, and I can see why Kalbeck enjoys the honey. It is the sweetest thing that I've had in years. I've taken another 3 spoonfuls before I realize that I'm scarfing down most of the night's breakfast. It is all the more evident when our utensils cling together. Oh, sorry. I got carried away. Thank you, Kalbeck. I'll be on my way then. Standing, I turn my head away from him to hide my blush as Kalbeck continues with his meal. Have a good day, sir. I shall see you in the evening. You too, Corwan. Go show them your best. He still looks at the screen, but I feel blustered and warm in my face and downstairs. Really? It wasn't romantic or anything, but it was strangely nice to eat like this. After a few breaths in the fresh morning air, I start a much less painful march towards the main building. While I join the throng of squires making their way in, my mind lingers on Kalbeck. Although I am starting to understand him a little, I still find it hard to get a read on him. He seems aloof or distant, yet his actions and words are kind. He obviously has some lingering issues beyond the physical, and who could blame him? No one who fights in a war comes out unscathed, and I can't imagine everything he's seen and dealt with, and what scars he has that I can't see. Does being his squire even give me the right to help him through that? I'm a companion, a servant. Usually I'd be his partner in battle, but he made it clear that he won't allow it. We're supposed to form this close bond and help each other, but does that allow me to pry into his life, especially if he doesn't want me to? I'm not sure, but I can figure that out as we go. He doesn't seem to hate me, but I'm not sure if he likes me either. Why is this so complicated? I mutter to myself, shaking my head as I make my way into the complex. No point thinking about mushy stuff right now. I don't want to throw myself off before we start today's activity. As the squires separate off into their respective duties, I join the few heading towards our room. I do not spot Eryx among the group. Wonder if he's as worn out as I am. Before I can enter, though, a blur of orange collides with my side. I teeter and windmill my arms as I start to fall, but Xaria catches me by the midriff and prevents my fall. Whoa there! Sorry, Corwan. I'm just so pumped. It's my knight's time to train us all and... She trails off as she realizes how she is holding me, mid-dip and at the waist. We also are gaining a few looks and whistles from those passing us. I'm not one to complain, and I'm no stranger to playing with felines. I hook my right leg behind her left one to give me leverage to pull myself fully upright. Xaria, do you tease everyone by almost sweeping them off their feet? I wink at her before she sputters. No! Stop it, you! Oh! She pushes me away, but her whiskers twitch as she grumbles many profanities under her breath. Nudging her side with my shoulder, we walk after the others. You don't have to hold back if you want to cuss me out. No need to play polite with a friend. She glances around as if to see if anyone is still paying attention, then focuses back to me. Her whiskers move so much that I am surprised that they haven't launched as tiny rockets by now. You're lucky that you're only half the imbecile that you appear to be, or I'd give you a real whack. I hold my chest and mock pain from the mildest insult that she could muster. Her mouth threatens to turn into a smile as we move into the training room proper. The room's back wall has retracted this time, showing a long range. The space has some terrain pieces dotted about. The weapons cache has a variety of firearms. All of them are still nice and safe behind the display, but are oh so tantalizing. I perk up immediately at the sight of them. Although we do not have very good weapons to train with as pages, they are very decent enough to practice with. Potentially, my muscles won't be strained as much as yesterday, which is a blessing. Xaria, however, wrinkles her nose and stiffens towards them. Room must be of the previous session's orientation. I bet Cyrox won't be pleased. Ooh, I can't wait to see him fling everyone around. She grins wildly, but I am not so sure about her claims on the room layout. More of the usual crowd arrives. Alex glides in alongside Eryx, who hobbles a little but looks cheerful. I give them a wave. They remain with the pack rather than trying to push forwards to where we're standing. One wolf shows no decorum. My shoulder screams for righteous vengeance as Brute forces his way past me and to the wall. He leans against it with an air of disinterest, but still maintains a good front-line view of the range. His ears are the only betrayal to his cool indifference as they actively monitor the room's chatter. The wish for something unpleasant to happen to this cocky git rises with every moment that I spend near him. It is one of the few instances where I'm thankful that I am not covered in fur. If I was, I'd be a puffed-up aggression ball right now. Luckily for Brute, my killer instinct is interrupted by the heavy footfalls of someone approaching the room, all eyes fixated on the door as the chatter dies. The door opens, and bending almost in half in order to enter, the brilliant ruby-scaled behemoth Cyrox the Mawful enters. His looming figure dominates the space. Even though the room is not small by any means, it feels like he dwarfs it as he strides slowly into the center. Craning my neck to get a better look, Cyrox seems to have some manner of modifications to his face. Small puffs of electrical-charged smoke billows out as he huffs and glares at us all. Standing still, I'm waiting another Commander Fen-esque rant at us for being insignificant whelps. That is, until his expression breaks out into a huge grin. He jumps on the spot, his thunderous landing rumblings with such intensity that I am surprised the floor doesn't give out. Look at you all! You're all so cute! He bounces again and laughs. I'm not the only one utterly thrown by his exuberant energy. He chuckles as he sees us all stumble back into position. Heh, sorry kiddies, I just got so excited seeing you all. He paces back and forth in front of us, his long tail whipping around. Yes, y'all good and eager I see, though a bit scrawny. We need to bulk you all up a fair bit, I think. Heh. He looks at us all with an honest and very disarming smile. I look at Xaria, but she seems to be just as energized as her knight. They really did match those two together perfectly. The Drake holds his arm wide, giving us all a view of his figure. I don't think there is an ounce of fat on him. He is truly a gargantuan Adonis from some celestial plane. Well, as y'all are most assuredly aware, I am Cyrox the Mawful, Cyrox the most, Ma to my old brooder, and Cy to my friends. I am very happy to see ya, and belated congratulations on making it into our esteemed company. He snorts and two rings of clouds puff out. Now, as you can see, I am more than a perfect specimen of honed athletic prowess. Yes, this is true. No need to gawk. He strides a few accidental poses that let all of us see his muscles bounce and contract. I think whatever forces align to allow me to stare wantonly at such a man. Keep it in your pants. However, it is not only physical strength that we expect our fledglings to excel in. He points towards the firing range and makes his biceps flex once more with a raised brow. We don't always have the luxury to engage our enemies up close and personal, so we must train our marksmanship just as rigorously. I don't look, but I think I hear Xaria's jaw drop. So it's time to bulk up your eyes and do reps with those trigger fingers. Hehe. He beams at us, and I cannot tell if he's joking or being genuine. But first, he jabs a claw up to the ceiling before surveying us all. He thrusts it down like a falling cleaver at Eryx. You, Squire Gladius, remind us all of the properties of KAU munitions and our modus operandi. Eryx looks a tad confused and shocked at Cyrox's question. Maybe it's because the knight called him out by name. I didn't expect the knights to know any squires outside of their own. Well, we engage using projectile-based ammunition and payloads, Knight Cyrox, enhanced with light and heavy tech, as is normal. He trails off and looks down, blushing profusely. Cyrox doesn't call attention to it and instead exclaims jovially, "Correct! And Squire Brute, why is this the way that we do things? Wouldn't direct energy weapons be better?" The wolf, though no longer against the wall, maintains some air of arrogance. He puffs up his chest as he answers. We tried. It didn't work. The fucking tech tights shrugged off everything that we threw at them, like we were nothing to the fucking slag heaps. The spite on his tone is the most emotion that I've seen from him, and his hackles rise as he answers the Drake's knight. Cyrox carries on unhindered by the wolf's blistering. That's right, nothing worked. Particles, radiation, vibration, the list goes on and on, more and more experimental. It is true to say that our first attempts to fight back were utter failures. They were dark days indeed. He closes his eyes and puffs a small storm cloud of dark smoke above him. The silent reprieve doesn't last long. But, that is when we discovered the true path to victory, a step back, rather than forward, in a way. It is true that even to this day, we have been unable to unravel their advanced shielding that absorbs, deflects, and otherwise ignores conventional weapons. However, we found that old-fashioned projectiles could still penetrate them. It doesn't matter how good a shield you have, you'll still be smushed by a boulder, right? He flexes again with self-congratulation, and there is a murmur of laughter throughout the ranks. Cyrox certainly has all our attention, and his bubbly energy is quite contagious. As we develop our arsenal with this revelation, we added light and heavy tech to it to really give us a fighting chance, and so... He points to the range like an eager uncle showing off pictures of his offspring. We approach, maybe a little too eagerly. Everything looks pretty standard, though the terrain has some apparatuses protruding From the soft buzz they have around them, I guess that they have the solid hollow window capabilities. There is a variety of cover, and the whole space looks like it could be configured to a range of weather and planetary environments to further test us. There are a few different firearms that I know from lessons set on a low bench in front of the range, a set of Vipers with their magazines that coil up the arms, as well as a short snouter with its porcelain nose-like tip that earned it its name. I even recognize some of the larger and longer-range arsenal. There is a battering ram and a kestrel, which I've never seen or held, but I pored over their details on the STIK searches. I do spot a standard Wolfpack, which gives me some relief. It looks like the most commonly used burst model. We had trained with it back on Foro. Even if the ones that we used were old, the pages and trainers maintained them most diligently, so they had lasted. I do not feel as out of my depth in this arena. Perhaps I may even make up for yesterday. I just need to get the Wolfpack before anyone else. Feeling other eyes on it, I assume that they're having similar thoughts to myself. Fuck, how will Cyrox even do this? My eyes flick to him as he's observing us all staring at the firearms, like they're Quasmo balls in the confection dispenser. His purple eyes meet mine for a brief moment, and then he winks. Okay, my clutchlings. Back, you savage beasts. You'll each get a chance to show us what you're made of. Cyrox nudges us all away from them. Truth be told, I have half a mind to linger as his frame comes closer. His navel is at my eye level. How tall is this man? I fall back into line with the rest. He points past the lines of weapons to the range itself. A few of you may have seen something like this before, but oh boy, this range is a different beast entirely. He exaggeratedly smacks the side of the wall. The room shakes. Planets from across the galaxy have been painstakingly scanned and cataloged to be recreated for our use. Temperature, visibility, atmospheric composition, gravitational levels, and loads more that I forgot or didn't understand. He beams proudly. I am certain that this scaled knight is truly a unique case in many areas. His jovial nature is a welcome change. As opposed to Fenn's strict and severe attitude, Cyrox gives off his positive, vibrant feelings. He's uplifting, heroic, and very much the poster boy for what the KAU is all about. I can see why he was so often the one talking at planetary visitations and at rallies, rather than the actual commander. He oozes approachability and kindness, alongside obvious strength and duty, plus that body. I had never thought myself a shallow man, but there is something about his sculptured scales that makes me want to do some heavy lifting, so to speak. God, I hate you so much. Today, however, we will just be using the baseline setting. Some stationary targets, some moving. Gotta have variety to give you all a chance to get the grips with the toys. Approaching the line, he gestures at the firearms lineup. All of these are variable units, capable of switching between light and heavy shots. These are also the most common type that you will deal with as cavalry units. He picks up the snouter. His large build dwarfs the barrel and makes it look very much like a toy. Once you get more acquainted and accustomed with these, we'll see where you'll excel. Then, just get to hone these skills to a sharp point and raise up the areas where you'll falter. Knowing which types of shots to take, which weapons best suits your talents, and when to change it up and try a new weapon, be it projectile or martial, are all skills that you will have to learn. His smile disappears as he continues. His eyes scan us to make sure that we are very clear on what he says next. As much as I hate to say it, actual combat experience is how you will learn the quick thinking needed to gauge a situation and make the right choices to stay alive. But his smile immediately shines forth again as he places the weapon down and shuffles to the side. We have no intention of sending you all out until you're trained up, so how about we give it a go? Let's see how you do. You'll have plenty of time in these sessions to try each firearm and see how each feels when firing both types. Remember your training. Try to pin down your target with light shots, and then a singular or a burst of heavy will finish the job. The targets are all programmed with the same carapace density that we calculate the plague has, so you can get a feel of how much each bugger needs to go down. He clasps his giant claw hands together, and we jolt again. The man's desire to keep our hearts racing must be a sadistic streak. Alright, let's have a few of you up. The three there, Ryx, Stringer, and Ludge. Step up and have a go. He gestures to the front row. I jolt as I am included in the selection, and I pause a beat before moving. Luckily, the other two are just as surprised. I get up to the lineup first and lay hands on the Wolfpack. The model is newer by a few years, but the shape and heft is familiar. I'm glad. This is something that I have at least some degree of confidence in. I hold it sideways to examine and see the compactor magazine slotted in securely, the soft glow of light showing it is active. We did not have these on Foro, but I know their function. Rounds that were compacted with light tech for greater capacity, and to invert the mass so as not to weigh down the user. It wouldn't need to be reloaded as often. The desire to see exactly how long I could fire continuously is highly tempting. The grip feels firm in my hands. After sliding my STIK against the material, it shifts to the perfect calibration for me. The other two adjust their chosen arms as well. The taller feline Eryx chooses the Vipers, moving the coiling part up his arms as his tail twitches eagerly. The other squire, Ludge, picks up the Kestrel. The longer scope looks large in the Pinnipidian's grip as he squats to aim. Sliding my hands into place, I quickly flick between the modes with my thumb to test. The Wolfpack glows and hums as it shifts from yellow to purple. Unlike the martial weapons, the firearms themselves are not impacted by the changes in energy. Instead, it was the projectiles fired from them. The recoil of the heavy ammo is what to watch for. Before we start all the fun, let's have a quiz. Once again, Cyrox breaks any sense of tension that was building with his genuine excitement and relaxed nature. Why do we not use automated or intelligent systems to fire at the plague? Why do we put ourselves in harm's way? Go on, Squire Hronos. Alex stands up straight and answers immediately. The plague's defenses predict most AI attack patterns and either resist or avoid the barrage entirely. It is assumed that they have much more advanced AI than ourselves. They are able to predict, adapt, and outmaneuver us. Cyrox beams and bobs his head. Full marks, correct. No matter how advanced we push, the plague adapts faster than we have ever been able to develop countermeasures. However, unlike AI, we mere mortals do not choose perfect firing patterns, nor shoot predictably every time. We found strength in our inefficiency and fallibility. He grins. I feel strangely calm and loose. It's odd to think that logic and perfect programming weren't what led us to being able to truly fight back. It was the personal touch, the fighting spirit, and being able to turn failures into success. It feels oddly zen. We'll start on a level playing field to get you ready and used to the way that they move, or rather, the best that we can simulate. Ready? Aim. Begin! Getting back into position as he finishes, I lift the Wolfpack up, settle the stock against my shoulder, and then line up the sights. As the range activates, the terrain slides up and down, rearranging the pieces into a new configuration. Then they come. The hairs on the back of my neck rise up as I see the simulated plague force materializes. Their armor is dark and iridescent, flickering as they shift and weave to make harder targets. So real, I can almost smell the scent of scorched earth and hear screams as they slink and scuttle forward. I take a breath, focusing on the thinner, lighter one, a scouter, fast frontliners for engaging. They shriek when they have found harvestable material. I make a small movement to click into light mode, one breath, and then I squeeze the trigger. A stream of bullets pulse out. The scouter shifts as the first few glance off its carapace. It's not clean, but the impact throws it off its approach. I barely hear the other two engaging. The scouter scuttles behind cover to avoid my shots. I immediately shift focus to a lumberjack I see further back, maneuvering slowly from behind a wall. Another few bursts of light and it's hunkering down. There's no way that it will be stopped without many heavy hits, but keeping it on the defensive is my goal. Even before I see it, I'm shifting my aim back towards the front where the scouter was trying to move out of its hiding place. I switch to toggle back on the Wolfpack to heavy and send a single burst at it. I tense for the recoil. I can't help but wince as my shoulder jerks from it, but I keep my grip on the firearm. The scouter is back to hiding. Lowering my gaze from the sights, I take a quick survey of the battlefield. The others are focusing on ones nearest to them. From the right, I hear grunts as Lunch takes shot after heavy shot, not landing any. His target is leaping between them, getting ever closer. I flip back to light and send a fast series of bursts in an upward arc. The plague pivots and spirals in an effort to avoid the stream, but it can't escape them all. The final few bursts land cleanly. Before it can even twist to land behind cover, the headpiece explodes as Lunch finally lands the killing blow. I barely register the squeak of happiness and the cheer behind us as it sweeps my sights back to my own foe. The scouter has made ground, but it's running out of cover to hide behind. The lumberjack in the back is being harried by the spiral spread of the vipers from Eryx to my left. Good, I can finish this. The scouter shifts left and right. It feints and counter-feints. I fire a few rounds, intending to miss as it weaves and responds. Another burst and then another fend. A deadly dance as it gains ground bit by bit. I am cool, breathing long and slow breaths between shots. The light shots barely jostle the firearm, allowing precision. Then it's almost no travel time from the moment my finger squeezes to impact. I hit the scouter square in the chest as it shifts back into my path. It rises its appendages in an attempt to ward off the barrage. I keep it pinned with one more burst before, with a flick and a brace, I fire off 3 heavy shots. Chest, head, chest. The first knocks it off its guard. The headshot is dodged. The second shot lands. The scouter falls. There is no thrill or accomplishment, just the next target. The lumberjack is the last of the wave, and it's stepped up its game, moving around or over cover in rapid, scuttling bursts. Whilst Eryx is managing to hit it more, the lumberjack ignores the peppering. Its carapace is harder and thicker. I hear Lunge's kestrel go off on my right with another heavy shot. The lumberjack has ample time to shift away. It's gaining ground. We need to halt it and fast. Taking aim once more, I fire a burst at its legs. It ignores the shots at first, but when I start hitting the knee joints, it backs up as it looks for cover. The viper shots become heavy. They start to strike the knees as well, buckling and breaking one completely as a lumberjack lurches to rebalance. Another crack on my right. The upper shell smashes from the sniper shot. I follow up with a full burst of heavy. My body screams from the recoil as bullets leave the barrel. Just like that, the body is ruptured and crumbles to the ground. I exhale deeply as I wait in the silence to see if there are any more. Instead, we get whoops and applause from our audience. Placing the wolfpack back on its mount, I then step back with my team. Cyrox bounds towards us and then scoops us all into his gargantuan arms. Brilliant, fantastic, haha, that's the way, yes sirree. Despite our struggling, the hulking drake of a man still holds us close. I'll admit, I don't mind it. First time feeling a scaled body. I do take note of how it feels. Pleasant. Luckily, he puts us down before my mind and hands, denying to wander. He beams proudly at all 3 of us. Exceptional work taking all of them down before they got into striking range. The setting might have been lowered, but it still was impressive to see all targets downed. He looks back over the range as the orientation is already resetting and maneuvering back into the default configuration. Now, Eryx, good covering fire, and you hit more often than not, but as you saw, if they can withstand light, then they'll just shrug it off. Don't be afraid to weave into heavy. It will keep them on their toes. He points his huge arms out and forms a faux gun with his fingers. He then makes circling motions, imitating aiming, with a few exaggerations to emphasize bigger shots. Being hard to read and offering a wide spread is a Viper's strong point. Lean into that next time. Eryx looks a little embarrassed, but nods with determination. Cyrox moves onto Ludge. I'm impressed with how you handled the kickback really well. I've not seen many who can take back-to-back heavy kestrel shots, but as you saw, they are very easy to predict, and your aim started to suffer a bit. The Drake moves behind him. Cyrox takes Lunge's right arm and then mimics holding the longer barrel. Together he makes a small movement left and right to adjust his aim as he continues. Mix in light shots to funnel them to where you can get a clean shot. Even if they can predict what's going on, they will still be wary of any sniper fire. He moves away from Ludge, who keeps repeating the motions a few times, coming around to stand in front of me. He puts his hands on his hips. I stand ready for his verdict, thinking about the simulation over and over again and try to figure out what I could have done better. Squire Stringer, I have to say, superb! Really great decision making and shot choices. Reading when to push, when to alter targets, and to assist others. You had exceptional situational awareness. The praise doesn't register at first. I find myself waiting for the other foot to fall and for him to ring me out. You did choose a safer weapon, so I will, of course, have to see how you handle other types. However, I think you have a great foundation, and we can build on that. If this was a real battle, you likely would have had saved a few lives. Great work. I'm stunned. I wasn't expecting anything that positive. I bow awkwardly before I shuffle back into the row with the others. My cheeks burn from their comments, and I feel the eyes on me. A slight tickle at my ankle jerks me out of my reprieve. A white tail coils around my left leg. I follow it up to find Alex staring at me intensely for a beat before giving me a thumbs up. Well done. I agree. You did wonderfully. He whispers, and the heat returns in full force to my face. Ah, yeah, thanks. I just did as I was trained, I guess. Luckily, really, that I got the wolf pack. Don't know if I could have done better with something else, as he said. I stammer. It feels good to not fail, but it still makes my stomach twist nervously when the others focus on me. I try not to grin too much as we turn back to the front. Okay, the rest of you, learn as we go. Spot what others are doing well, listen to feedback, raise others up, and improve continuously. Agree? Yes, sir. Let's get Hronos, Cerberus, Verdra up for the next round. Alex nods at me again and then walks up. Brute and a Reptilian squire do so as well. Verdra reaches up for the wolf pack before a growl from Brute makes him snatch his arms back. You will all get a chance to use all types in the end, so no need to fight. Take the snouter, Verdra. They do. Alex picks up the kestrel and then takes point. Wow, he even looks effortless while aiming down the sights. His whiskers point forward as he uses the scope to take a peek around the range. It's as if he was preemptively seeking out a target. Brute takes his time preparing. He alters the size adjustments manually, seemingly unsatisfied with what the weapon thinks is the appropriate measurements. Eventually, he grunts and takes aim. It looks larger than it should for his frame, but he seems comfortable. Now that I am no longer at the firing line, I can see how Cyrox uses his STIK to start the program. The terrain orientation, though different, provides similar cover and open areas. Grr! Die, you fucks! To say Brute explodes as it starts is an understatement. He's leaning over the barrier and practically falling over it to the range. His shots are wild, zigzagging all over the field from target to target with massive variance between types. I'd love to say that he was awful, but honestly, his erratic nature throws the advancing line off significantly. It's only been a few seconds, but most have slipped behind cover. Show yourself, cowards! He's practically frothing in the mouth as he unloads a barrage of heavy rounds into a scout's hiding spot. The material breaks apart from the abuse. The skulking plague gets peppered as it flees for another more cover. He reacts to even the slightest movements with instant aggression, laying down more shots. Alex's mouth is downturned in concentration, but then it curls into a grin as it spots a driller plague starting to lumber out of cover. With one shot, it stumbles, another, and it's tipping over. A rapid deluge of shots from Brute finishes it off. Whether or not Alex is annoyed, he doesn't show it. He just keeps taking his shots, waiting for his moment to either distract or finish off his targets. Verdra isn't taking many shots and missing with any they try. I think Brute is throwing them off, so much so that they do not see the ringer sneaking up alongside the outer wall. As I'm about to call out a warning, I catch Cyrox striding towards the line just as the ringer springs at Phaedra. Okay, Phaedra, you died. Weapons down. He swipes his STIK towards the simulation, Plague who evaporates as the simulation resets. The reptilian looks shaken, Brute still clutching the wolfpack tightly as he stares into the range. What? We're not done. I haven't murdered them all yet. Cool off, Squire Cerberus. One of your fellows was about to be tagged. Simulation over. Understood? I'm not sure if Brute does, as he pants heavily and just stares into the range. The Drake turns to address Phaedra instead. Try to keep your eyes surveying multiple parts of the battlefield, not just what your allies are concentrating on. The snouter has more range than you think. Next time, we'll try some tighter spread patterns. that work well, okay? His voice is level, still buoyant, but he lowers his tone when he is addressing them. Phaedra is still shaking, but they nod a few times before creeping back into the line. Cyrox turns to Alex next, who stands calmly for assessment. Now, Hronos, you make good choices, even in chaotic situations, but you could make some risky shots. The perfect shot rarely exists, and waiting for it could lose you the advantage. You did make each shot count, yes, but then you will be predictable. Alex takes in the feedback stoically, but I can tell from his swishing tail that he's annoyed. He joins the rest of us as Cyrox turns to Brute, who has finally stopped huffing. Brute turns to face the larger man, looking up at him as his muzzle still twitches angrily. Well now, you certainly know how to throw the element of unpredictability into the mix. I don't know that anyone could doubt that. They had no idea what was hitting them, when or what type. It opens up an advantage for you and your allies to pick them off. However, he looks back at the group for a moment before continuing. Be mindful that being too disruptive to your companions can throw off team synergy. As you all learn how one another operates and adjusts, it will get better. That being said, don't lose yourself in the fight, Squire. Your duty is as much about keeping yourself and others safe as it is about defeating the plague. Brute just curtly nods and then turns back into the group. His glower is enough that no one dares stop him from returning to his position on the wall, although his stance now is far less aloof and more twitchy with anger. Cyrox calls more up to shoot. The quality of competency varies more than I thought that it would. Many miss or fail at defeating all of the targets. Some work very well together, and there is always a collective whooping when a wave is thoroughly squashed. Eventually, Xaria and Eryx get called up alongside a short Hyaenidian. While Eryx looks pumped as he approaches the line, Xaria could not appear more the opposite. Her ears are down, and she has none of her usual bubbly energy. I'm impressed that Eryx hefts up the battering ram. No one has had much luck with it. The recoil threw a Squire off his ass early on, and others had either avoided it or done poorly with it afterward. Xaria lets her remaining companion choose first, and then gingerly takes up the Vipers. Even as she takes up her stance and levels up firearms, she looks unhappy. All eyes turn to the range as their session begins. It starts off normally, the obstacles rise, and then the simulated plague appear, creeping around the terrain. A few streams of light shots tear across the range. Both Xaria and the third I hadn't caught the name of engage, neither one hitting or deterring them much. I'm fixated on Eryx, who is widening his stance as he lines up his own shot, the gun aglow in light yellow. With a deep bellow, a sunlight projectile fires forth from the ram and then collides with the plague that is crawling towards Xaria. It hits squarely and falls on its back. Before it can right itself, a heavy shot that looks like a ball of pitch, it obliterates it. I'm impressed. It's slow, but the battering ram certainly makes a quick work when it finds its target. Eryx is showing us all that now, even as sweat drips down his face from his exertion. The recoil and the weight of it is no joke. As Eryx continues to follow up with the good shots from the third, Xaria is struggling. Her shots often go wide, or they hit, but she does not follow up with heavy blows to finish the job. I can see her mouth turning into a snarl as she jabs each Viper forward in more of a punching motion than an aim shot. Finding some comfortability in this style, she continues despite her aim not particularly improving. The session ends with her success, mostly from Eryx taking advantage of any distraction and the fact that Ram could destroy even the plague's cover. He shakes as he puts it down and is drenched. We give them a round of cheers as Cyrox swoops in for the evaluation. Now that's what I like to see, Squire Rondus, taking the ram by the horns, eh? Haha. I can't fault your stance. You have a solid base and know how to take the shot of the beast's kickback. I think you're aware of the strain it has, though. This was a short skirmish overall, and you exerted yourself. Practice holding that stance with a similar weight to get used to long drawn-out periods where you will need to be ready. Yes, sir. Despite the panting, Eryx smiles and flies back in. Cyrox moves on over to give feedback to the other shooter, who also scampers back before he turns to Xaria. He puts his hands on his hips as he looks at his own Squire. Well, I did say to be erratic in your firing, but you need to work on your stance. Thrusting isn't as effective. The Vipers have good coverage. We'll work on your grip and how to switch it up. Areas to improve, my squire. Plenty of gains to gain. Remember that even when flustered, we can cover for and help each other. That's all, Xaria. Back in line. Alright, next we have... Xaria practically slumps into the group, her tail tightly wrapped around her right leg. It's so unlike her. She mills around the back, so I don't get to catch her eyes as the next row starts their turn. She cheered me up yesterday. I would like to do the same, but I shall have to wait for the right moment. For now, I watch the remainder of the practice. After the final round is done and feedback is given, Cyrox stands before us all beaming like a proud uncle. I do think that we have some great talent here, plenty of strengths to polish and weaknesses to account for, and plenty of time to find what you can excel at. I'm proud of y'all. He flashes all a toothy grin and everyone puffs up their chest out in response. Great, this Drake is going to turn us all into his praise-craving harem if he keeps it up. Not that my traitorous chest seems to mind as it follows suit. That being said, I feel that we could all do with a nice run to shake out the strains of all the target practice. We'll only do a few laps around the site, nothing too long. Alright, squires? Follow me! Before we all have much time to process the actual distance the massive behemoth was toting as not much, he's jogging out of the door. We scramble to not lose too much ground. He takes us all out onto one of the many looping paths that encircle the complex. Although I suspect Cyrox is metering his pace for us all, he still is going at a speed that naturally starts to separate us into packs based on athleticism. Having not much time to explore yet, I do take the chance to look around and end up at a pace that keeps me towards the back. There is little to no chance that I can compete in this arena against the others. Squires and knights come in all shapes and sizes, and there would be those naturally more suited for long-distance running. Though I do see some feline squires take off after Cyrox early on, the length of the run seems to have dawned on them with some regret. A few pant and slow from their initial sprint to almost a crawl. As I look around the complex, I notice a few other lessons going on. A bunch of squires are using some rapid excavation tools and fortification kits to build trenches for cover. Some archer squires are using long-range artillery mortars. I can't even spot what they're aiming at, but their coordination seems on point as they appear pleased with their results. Apart from others dueling or engaging in group skirmishes, there are others who are off duty. They're walking about the grounds leisurely or eating together on the lawns. Seeing those different activities occurring so close to one another conjures this strangely intense yet relaxed feeling. You did really well back there, Corwan. I'm shaken from my observations by Eryx lumbering alongside me to the right. I hadn't even noticed that we ended up in the same pack. From his sweat-matted fur and panting, I can see that he is not enjoying this activity. Oh, thanks. Looking sidelong, I give him a grin as I slow slightly to match his pace. I think you did amazing too. You saw all the others. They could barely lift the ram, and you fought the entire wave with their... Eryx pants and pats his belly before immediately regretting the decision and huffing. Oh, well, I guess it has its uses. Honestly, I'm not that keen on the ram. Just that it was the only thing similar to what my pa let me practice with. I feel there's more to the story, but as I'm about to open my mouth to ask, an orange blur bumps into my other side. At least you didn't just put on a sorry display in front of your knight. Why did it have to be firearms of all things? Cyrox could have done sparring or endurance or anything else, and I wouldn't have made such a kit-like effort. Her ears fold against her head as she easily keeps pace with us. I hadn't expected her to be back with us, given her obvious joy for physical activities. I side bump her back to get her attention. You didn't do that badly. You just put down enough fire that the others managed to pin the plague down. We'll all appreciate that in a real shootout. I nearly wince at my poor attempt to elevate her feelings. She did much better yesterday. Luckily, Eryx huffs to my rescue. Yeah, I didn't think that you were bad. At least you knew to use what modes. There were plenty of squires just trying to hit them and not thinking about taking them down. The bear gives her an open-mouthed grin, panting. His ears waggle with each stride. Xaria, however, is just staring at her cybernetic paws as we jog. She flexes them. deep in thought. I feel like it's hard to fire with these. The doc said that there isn't, but it feels like there's a delay. It's so frustrating. I'd much rather punch the plague straight in their dumb face. To punctuate her point, she jabs her fists forward. My eyes run over her arms. They look amazing. No attempt was made to cover them up, to match them to her body. She seems to show them off proudly. I know very little about bodily augmentations and replacements. Seeing hers, I cannot help but think of Calbeck's. If you don't mind, Xaria, can I ask what happened? She glances my way, and for a moment I feel like I've overstepped. Then she just chuckles in an almost purr-like way. Huh. No one usually asks. They think it's a touchy subject, but really, it was just a dumb kitten choice. My fault, born of stubbornness. She looks almost wistfully, remembering a scene that we can't see. I was testing out some new tech. My clan is big into close combat fighting, using what evolution gave us. Generations of proud practitioners. Not that any of that mattered when it came to the plague. Her voice gets quieter. Eryx and I jog closer to keep it within hearing distance. We were all adept and overcome. My clan was no different, but we still felt our way of fighting could and should be viable. So, while many took up the weapons found to work on the plague, my clan turned to working on their own tech. She flexes her arms and claws. Even I can admire the quality of the craftsmanship. So they developed gauntlets that could use light and heavy tech, just like the other weapons do. They were the first operational models, completed after many, many years of work. My father was so proud when the clan heads asked me to demonstrate them. I mean, I was excited to, eager. Maybe a little too much. I showed them off, and the things worked, reduced the dummies to dust, but I pushed harder. They'd, of course, warned me not to overdo it, but I felt like I could finally fight back the way that we used to, and proudly. Her ears flick in irritation. So, I kept at it, punching harder, pushing more energy than they could take, especially with the gravitational exertion that heavy puts on them. And they cracked. I can still remember the sound so clearly, before they ruptured, like a horrific tearing and grating. I still don't know if it was the metal or my bones making the sound. She sighs. When she looks up, she flashes us her trademark grin. As she flexes her arms again, they push briefly with energy. She sighs. When she looks up, she flashes us her trademark grin. As she flexes her arms again, they pulse briefly with energy. So, yes, my own fault, but I accept that. These are even more advanced than the gauntlets. They learned a lot and made these stronger and more durable, and hit harder. I can't complain. Still, small movements, fine, delicate work. I'm still not that great at it, and the more I try to concentrate on it, the more I feel like they react slower. We fall into silence as we keep jogging. The sounds of footfalls punctuate the movements as I digest what she said. It's Eryx who breaks the reprieve. Well, I don't know much about the tech that you have, but I could take a look. I promise that I won't break anything, and I can assure you that I'll give them the respect and care that they and you deserve. He stumbles over the offer, but it's truly kind and I feel the same way. Yeah, I agree. We can look at them. If there isn't a delay, I don't know, we can always take up some extra micro-engineering training to get you used to handling teeny tiny motions. Would be good for your boundless energy anyway. I wink at her. She scowls back and laughs. I swear, I will punch you, Corwan. You best hope that I don't accidentally go full throttle and pulp you. Sorry, I wouldn't, of course. She folds her ears down after her threat, but I laugh and wave it off. Don't worry about that. I'm not keen on the smashing part, but I would be happy to train sometime. Xaria immediately perks up and returns to her bouncy self. I swear she should have whiplash by now. More than happy to, thanks, both of you. I feel so much better now. I think I'm gonna go try to catch up with Cyrox and apologize. See you later. She takes off rapidly, putting distance between us. The group ahead yelps as she surges past them, and they boggle in disbelief. She really is a great person, isn't she? I don't think that I'll be able to recover from that if I lost my arms. I keep watching Xaria tear away until she disappears out of sight around the building. She's got some fire for sure. That being said, I don't want her to outdo us just yet. Wanna pick up the pace? Eryx gives me a pained expression but nods. I doubt either of us hold any expectations on catching up, but I feel motivated to push harder after our short exchange. If I keel over, go on without me. Ha! No chance I'm letting you collapse on the battlefield. We're all making it home today, by which I mean a cold shower after this. That seems to give him some extra incentive. With our prize in mind, we pick up the pace. By the time we reached the end of the loop around the building, we had pushed ourselves just beyond the middle of the packs. I felt prouder, though my body was much less impressed. From the late night prior and the long run, my fumes are running on fumes. Eryx is faring just as poorly with his paws on his knees as he takes slow gulps of air. I pat his back conscientiously, feeling the sweat matted fur. I feel bad that I had just pushed us so hard in the end. A few less exhausted squires pass us on the route to the showers. I can faintly hear the siren call of the soothing water. You okay, Eryx? Think you can make it a bit further? We're so close. If you're offering to carry me, I won't say no. He's almost pleading. If I had the strength to do so, I may well have offered. Instead, I take his clammy paw and then pull him into the shower room. The steam spills forth from the cubicles invitingly. We both start peeling off our gear. Before we can get far, I pick up on a snarl coming from the other side of the room. I told you that I have no quarrel with you, brute. There are far more pressing concerns that I have than to protect that fragile ego of yours. Listen, you prick. I know that it was you that tripped me before I went tail over arse into that shrub. I saw your spotted backside sprinting away. I haven't seen any other spotted fucks, so it must have been you. Leaning around the lockers, I can see Alex and Brute glaring at each other, mere whiskers apart. Brute's hackles are up, and Alex looks less than impressed. His nose twitches as he maintains his cool demeanor. Get back, Brute, or I swear that you will end up on your back again. This time, I'll be more than happy to take that claim. There is no reason that I would have to sabotage you. I was making perfectly good time. Brute jabs Alex in the chest. They both must have finished their showers already from the nearby towels. Their fur is still mildly damp. You want to show me up? You think that I don't know how your kind swans about, jeweled up on the ears and raised without any form of competition? You saw me ahead of you, a lowly wolf, and you snapped, didn't you? He punctuates his question with 2 more jabs. His jaw is so close to Alex's throat that I swear he is about to bite his jugular out. Get the fuck away from me, dog! Faster than a blink, Alex is slamming Brute against the wall. His paws are wrapped around Brute's neck as he growls at him, fully baring his fangs. It's a shock given how Alex usually holds himself. You think that you have us all figured out? Well, you don't, you arrogant mongrel. Touch me again and I'll hollow out your chests with my own claws and take great pleasure in it. Brute kicks out his knees, hitting Alex's abdomen, but the leopard still holds him firm by the neck. Brute's jaw gnashes futilely. Before things escalate further, I hurry over and then grabs Alex's arm. Hey, Alex, it's okay. He got the message. Let him go. Alex turns his face to me sharply and snaps his jaw at me, only missing me by an inch as I pull my face out of the way. Before I can say anything, he recognizes me and immediately his expression dissolves into horror and shame. Corwan? Oh, I'm sorry, Seeming to realize what he's doing, Alex lets go of Brute. Brute slumps to the floor, holding his throat and coughing. You're insane, you bloody psycho! I give him a look to try to silently tell him to shut the fuck up. Afterwards, I turn back to Alex, who is looking down between Brute and his own paws. Alex, He gives me another look of shame and anguish before he grabs his stuff and then bolts out of the room. I see Eryx peek his head after him and then turn to Brute and I with a quizzical expression. What happened? Brute, he just tripped. I glance down at the wolf, who stops massaging his neck when Eryx appears. Then he whips his head towards me as I lie. I offer him a hand to help him get up. He stares at me for a long moment, eyes boring into mine. It's to the point that I think about retracting my hand, lest it get bitten off, but he eventually takes it and levers himself to his feet. Yeah, I just slipped. He yanks me towards him. My body is practically flush with his for a moment. I should be more careful. He releases me, leaving his threat hanging in the air as he calmly dresses and then exits. Eryx tilts his head, looking puzzled, but I just shake my head in return. Not worth it. Let's head in. I need that water now more than ever. Shrugging, he then ambles after me into the steamy fog. We spend the remainder of the day going over the planetary defenses, protocols, launching sites, and the satellite cities. Orbiting above the cities create a matrix with other orbiting arrays. Together they were designed to make OSID as unappealing a target as possible whilst ensuring fast deployment. Tired as I am, I managed to avoid nodding off. A few of the others succumb and then get a sharp wake-up call from the attending lecturer from the Castle Division. Being told that we are all heading up to Belvas tomorrow for training immediately makes me perk up and pay attention. Zero-gravity training and orientation is something that I have been keenly looking forward to. The instructors on Frodo did their best, but their attempts to simulate anything was pitiable. Understandable given the moon's situation, they could not very well isolate and turn off sections of the complex just for our benefit, so we had to make do with the reduced gravity and harnesses. It was a far cry from the actual freedom and practical awareness that we would gain, not to mention learning basic coordination and then omnidirectional tactics. The instructor also tells us that we will be staying in the city afterwards, and we will be allowed some free time to tour it, pending any demerits. A palpable buzz fills the room. The instructor has to clear their throat more than a few times to bring us back to attentiveness. By the time that we are filing out, many are already discussing what they want to do. The orbiting cities were designed with duty in mind first and foremost, with labs for experimentations as well as workshops for development, but they also were semi-permeable residences. On top of that, there are shops, restaurants, and other forms of entertainment. There will be plenty of time to take it in. I joined the throng of excited squires talking, taking notes of known locales and rumored spots to visit. Arriving back at the house, my mood cannot be any more different than yesterday's. I can't wait to tell Calvix about my day. I hope to show him that, at least in some areas, I can shine. Walking through the kitchen, he doesn't appear to be back yet. I don't hear any movement from the study or upstairs either. I deflate a little. I was after some praise and affirmation from my knight. If I'm honest with myself, having to wait makes me realize how needy that might be. However, Calvix not being back yet provides me with exactly what I want, being able to get the household ready and welcoming for his return. That would mean a meal, to give the areas a clean and anything else that can be done before he gets in. I chastise myself for not asking for a copy of Calvix's own schedule so that I could have planned better. Page move there, Corwan. I bound up the stairs and then shunk off my gear as fast as I can, bundling it up for cleaning with some of the other strewn garments. Finding some loose-fitting clothes, I pull them on and then carry the load out. I pause by Calvix's room. Whilst cleaning one's knight's clothes was an expectation, I had not been shown his room yet. I teeter on the idea of having a peek and maybe grabbing any of Calvix's laundry as well. Deciding that I should wait for permission, just in case, I carry on downstairs to the little room next to the kitchen and then set the clothes to wash. Surveying the battlefield that was to be the kitchen, I take stock. In terms of waste, there is not much. Apart from the bowl from breakfast, there isn't anything to wash. The counters, however, are not spotless. There is clutter there and there, not to mention the long dining table covered in boxes. Plenty to get on with. However, foremost is dinner. I open the cabinets and units to see what I have to work with. Finding the spice storage, I spend a long time opening and smelling each of them. There is a wide variety, some spicy, a few citrusy, but most of them are herbal or floral, with a few almost empty ones that have very earthy and deep notes. I am aware of the heightened sense of smell lupines have, to a degree. Seeing this many flavorings, I imagine Calvix enjoys the aroma of a meal just as much as the taste. Most of them I have never heard of before. I wonder if Calbix had cultivated these bounties from across the galaxy. Maybe each planet he had visited now exists in a small jar of aromatic memories. It is a somewhat romantic idea. That or he just got them from a distributor in bulk. I really should stop daydreaming about possible depths and secret brooding nostalgia my night may or may not have. Shaking myself from my fantasy, I pull out my STIK and look up some recipes that use the emptiest jars and other ingredients that I feel confident handling. Finding a simple yet tasty-looking one-pot meal, I get started. In the Pages dorm, we would all cook together and share the tasks. Maros always hated chopping pungent vegetables. He would wrinkle his nose and twitch his whiskers before pleading with me to cut them for him. Chuckling at the memory, I slice up some brown and orange bulbs and some vibrantly blue tubers. The colors look odd but alluring, and they smell of sun-baked earth. I admire the meat as I prepare it. The marbling is almost mesmerizing. As I throw the chunks into the heated pot to brown, the smell immediately makes my stomach flip with eager anticipation. After adding the veg, I add a glug of fizzling alcohol the recipe called for to glazing. Finally, it goes stuck in spices. Then I put the lid on to simmer. The range's parts fit to it, heating it from the sides as well as the bottom. It looks like the stovetop is hugging the pot, and I don't blame it. The smell is alluring, if I say so myself. With the meal cooking away, I set to the cleaning. The home has a composter outside which I deposit the vegetable scraps into and then leave the back doors ajar to let some air in. It takes me some time to find the cleaning equipment. At first, I have to puzzle over the tools and different products. Most of them are rudimentary bots that you could just turn on and leave be. I do so for the ceiling and floors, after identifying the correct fluids to put into each of them. There is a sweet, fruity spray that looks like a degreaser. I use it to clean the countertops, and the kitchen is soon shining to the page standard that had been drummed into me. Not satisfied with anything less than perfection, I give every part of the kitchen extra elbow grease powered attention. Reaching the island unit, I study the mess that crowns it with scrutiny. I'd be in for it if I discarded something important, but the junk is throwing off my cleaning rights. It must be tackled. I opt for sorting through it as best as I can and leaving piles on the storage dining table. Parcels get dusted off and then stacked neatly. There are some tools, screwdrivers and small wrenches that I line up next to one another, unsure what they are for, but easy to spot. Oddly, there are a few letters in the mix. They're unopened, but from the envelopes alone I can tell that they come from many different systems, maybe letters of gratitude or perhaps love letters from pining hero worshippers. Slowing down as I stack them up, I consider this. Calbix is a handsome wolf. Hell, even if he wasn't my assigned knight, I think that I'd still choose him out of the lineup. Before the accident, he was practically the poster boy for the KAU and the sector. It wouldn't be surprising if he garnered quite a few fanciers. Having partners wasn't restricted by the KAU. Maybe he even has one or more suitors in the den? I wonder if any would be visiting here. I frown slightly as I put up the last letter into the pile. I feel a slight twist in my stomach, but I'm not sure why. Calbix is entitled to do whoever he feels like. Maybe it was the feeling, even after just a few days, that this is a private zone just for a knight and a squire, for me to serve and learn, and him to unwind. Was that selfish? It feels more complicated, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Hearing the door open, I hasten away from the table and go to check on the meal. Lifting the lid, the steam that bellows out encompasses my face. The twisting in my belly is most definitely hunger-related now. I start gathering up bowls to serve in, and then make sure to set up Calbix's spot by the doors. As he enters, he looks around. His expressions are hard to read again. I see his eyes dart over the counters, the table stacked with organized mess, and the meal waiting for him. Corwan, you cleaned and cooked. He walks over and then wavers next to the chair before sitting down. I bring him over a glass of water and cutlery, and then wait expectantly. He looks at me. I recall this morning and hasten to bring my own bowl over and take a seat. He hasn't taken a bite yet, as I sit and wait. I wonder if perhaps there is some protocol that I missed. Calbix, can I get you anything else? As I ask, he looks me up, somewhat startled. He then looks back down at the bowl before shaking his head and picking up a spoon. No, I just haven't had this meal in a long time. Thank you. He takes a spoonful and chews it slowly. I wait until he swallows and nods. It is good, truly. I smile and exhale before taking a taste for myself. The sauce had thickened and picked up a slight blue hue that clings to the braised meat and tender veg. The smell elicits a deeply centered feeling of wood-like walks and nostalgic happiness from some distantly forgotten memory that I can't place. The taste is even better. I may have found my new favorite meal. I let the sauce stick to my tongue as I enjoy another spoonful. Calbix watches me between bites with a bittersweet expression. Eventually, he takes a drink and then clears his throat. Ahem. So, how was your day? I try to speak, but I have to stop and finish swallowing first as I choke in my haste. Grabbing my own glass, I take a glug. It was great. We had Cyrox teaching. He liked my marksmanship and coordination. I think some others had great skills, but I still made a better showing of myself today. The simulated plague were intense and moved so precisely. It was hard to get them off guard enough to take them down. I need to try some of the other firearms though. I did choose a safer option. Calbix listens and nods as he eats. That is good. It is fine to stick with what you know at first. Stopping in advance before they can get close is the best tactic, and taking time to learn is what you are here for. Being adaptable and unpredictable with how you attack will ensure the best chance of survival. Try the Nighthawk next time. If you get the chance, it's harder to control, but if you get used to it, you'll have a lot of options in a skirmish. I listen intently to his advice. I've never heard of that firearm before, but I could look it up later. It's the most that he's spoken in one instance as well. Oh, thanks, I will. How about you? How was your day? Calvix sighs as he looks outside. The sun is starting to set over the distant buildings. Tactical briefings, latest sightings, predictions, then training. More meetings, ship improvements, team compositions. Honestly, I've had preferred your day. His mouth turns up with a hint of a smile as he polishes off the bowl. I feel a surge of accomplishment swell in me. This is nice. It feels good to fulfill my duties as well, and the conversation is going smoother. Maybe we're finally getting used to each other. Content, I work on my own bowl, enjoying the comfortable silence. In fact, I think that I could do with another bowl. He rises to make for the kitchen, empty bowl in hand, but I also leap up to intercept him and reach for his bowl. Oh, let me. I should be the one who... The bowl slips from my grasp and shatters on the ground, fragmenting into innumerable pieces. The remaining broth leaves a sad puddle. Calbix looks shocked for a moment before he kneels and then starts picking up the pieces. I try to do the same, my cheeks burning with embarrassment. Oh shit. I'm so sorry. Let me get this. It's my fault. I can do it myself. I don't need you. Calbix bellows. I've withdrawn from him instinctually. He looks at me with anger, then shock, then stands, gives me another look, and then hurries out of the room. Between my thundering heartbeats, I can hear him ascending the stairs and then entering his room. What was that? Did I mess up? The situation flips so fast that I didn't fully know what happened. I realize I'm clutching a piece of the bowl so tightly that it has sliced into my palm. It doesn't hurt, rather not as much as my heart does now. What had I done? Does he really hate being waited on so badly? I pick up the remaining pieces and then move to throw them out. Calbix's angry face flashes through my head again and again. The sun is setting. Shadows creep across the edges of the room. I take deep breaths to fight against the tears welling up. Even alone, I don't want to start crying. Not now. Not again. I clench my hand closed and focus on the sting of the cut. It's just pain. It will fade. It will fade. Breathe. I hold it in until the feeling subsides and then I finish throwing out the pieces of the bowl. I don't have the energy to clean anything else. Seeing Calbix's flask on the counter, I have an impulse to throw it. As I grab it, I know that I won't. I rinse it out and then refilled it as he's shown me just hours ago, back when I thought that things were starting to change. I head upstairs and then to the bed, all triumph from the day dashed with the echoing shatter of the bowl. I guess that's the to be continued. So, it is kind of obvious that, you know, that Calvix has issues right now with, you know, the whole, like, I don't want to be waited on. I don't want to be reminded of how useless I feel. So that's probably going to keep happening if Corwan doesn't realize, you know, that his knight has some issues that he needs to work through. But at the same time, it also is going to keep happening if Calvix doesn't realize that he has to work through these issues. That, technically speaking, it's Corwan's job to do all these things for him. You know, to pick up the ball, you know, get him more food, bring it back to him, get his things ready, etc., etc. It's not that, you know, it's not that he himself is useless, you know, Calvix. It's just that, you know, this is Corwan's job. If you don't want him to do these things, then I guess just tell him. You know, tell him, like, these are your duties. Anything else, you don't have to do. Me getting food is okay. I can do this. But yeah, it is very much somebody coming back from war, or just somebody who has recently been disabled having to learn, you know, these new things, having to learn to be able to take help. That, you know, even though he is able to do certain things despite the disability, that somebody helping him isn't being done maliciously or something like that. My guess is that perhaps the whole he was, if I recall correctly, he was thrust into duty again, which is something that he didn't want to do. And perhaps part of the reason was so that he could get a squire to, you know, help him. And maybe he resents that now. Who knows? I suppose as the story progresses, we'll eventually get all that information. But yeah. So, poor Corwan, I guess, at this point. But yeah, so as I said earlier at the beginning, we got to see one of the other... Is he a captain or what is he? I forget what he was. I also just forgot his name. Was it Cybex or something? The dragon dude. Xaria's knight. But yeah, pretty cool. I'm guessing that eventually with time we will be able to see more of the other knights that are, you know, paired with the other characters, like for Alex's knight and Eryx. I think his name is Eryx. But yeah, it'll be cool to see more of the other characters and perhaps species and what other things, you know, they do, etc., etc., etc. Anyways, so, you know, write down in the comments what you thought so far, and thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play in Finite Space yourself, you can do so by going down into the link in the description for their Twitter page, because I refuse to call it X, and I don't know if they have a Blue Sky yet, but if they do, I will also link that down. And if you don't want to, you know, do it that route, then you can just go to itch.io and download it yourself. And I will also be posting down a link for their Patreon, which I think is new. They just set it up. So I'm hoping that it's them. I'm hoping I'm not confusing it with someone else. But yeah, they have a Patreon where you get early access to builds of Infinite Space and all that other good jazz. I do know that the next build has already been mostly written. I am not sure when it will be out, and it will also be longer than some of these other builds. So expect it sometime maybe in a month or two. We'll see. You know, because you guys are going to be like, I want the next part. I want to find out what's going to happen. Well, you're going to have to wait a while. Hopefully I will have this out by Sunday, being the week after the whole Remember the Flowers on Sunday. So this next Sunday is Infinite Space. Anyways, so yeah. Also, you know, always plugging my coffee, which is linked down in the description if you want to donate to me. I will really appreciate it. I've also been thinking of floating around the idea of having channel memberships, which for the most part you would get, like, you know, like they do in visual novels where you you'll get thanked in every video after you subscribed. You will be personally thanked. And depending on if I have videos already lined up, like for example, if I'm recording this on Monday, and if I edited it out by Tuesday, then it would already be uploaded for Sunday. But if you're subscribed to the channel, you would get early access, so you would be able to see it basically from the moment it's uploaded. So that's one of the channel perks that I'm, thinking of doing. Actually, I'm not even thinking of doing. It's already one of the channel perks. I'm slowly setting it up. So it would probably be just like $2 a month. So if you guys are interested, then, you would subscribe. And for $2 a month, you would get early access and you would get, thanked in every video after you subscribe. So yeah, anyways. So yeah, coffee and possible channel memberships. Yeah, anyways, so I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.